Can Yaman. A man who has been under the brightest spotlight for years, a name that has been turned into headlines countless times, a face recognized not only in Turkey but across the world. To some, he is simply a television star. To millions of others, he is a phenomenon, an idol, and a symbol of modern Turkish drama's global success. But for Can himself, behind all the noise, the fame, and the endless speculation, there is something more personal, more vulnerable. And when he finally decided to break his silence with the words, "This is my life," the world listened. This statement was not just a casual phrase. It was an explosion. It was a reminder that behind every rumor, behind every glossy magazine cover, there is a human being. For years, the world has speculated about Can Yaman's personal life, his relationships, his conflicts, his choices. Every smile, every move, every flight he took became a subject of debate. But this time, it was his voice that cut through the noise. His confession, his truth. To understand the weight of his words, we must go back to the beginning. Born and raised in Istanbul, Can's early life was not destined for stardom. He studied law, built discipline, and was expected to follow a professional path far from cameras and scripts. But deep down, there was a fire, a passion for performance, for expression, for living stories rather than analyzing them. When he took his first steps into acting, no one could have predicted how fast his career would rise. With every new project, his charisma grew undeniable. His breakthrough came with romantic comedies that didn't just entertain, they conquered hearts. His role in Erkenci Kus made him a household name, not just in Turkey but across Europe, Latin America, and beyond. Fans were enchanted not only by his looks but by the chemistry he created on screen. With Demet Özdemir, the sparks were so real that people were convinced they were watching something more than fiction. Social media exploded. Gossip magazines turned every glance into a love story. Suddenly, Can Yaman was no longer just an actor, he was part of a global fantasy. But with fame came a heavy price. Privacy, once taken for granted, disappeared. Every friend became a rumored lover. Every smile became evidence of a secret relationship. And every silence was treated as a scandal. Can often tried to push back against the pressure, but the media storm was relentless. His move to Italy only intensified things. Italian press followed his every step, fans waited outside studios, and even the smallest detail, a walk with a friend, a dinner at a restaurant, became a headline. Imagine living under that kind of microscope. For Can, it became exhausting. The constant speculation, the endless judgments, the way strangers felt entitled to define his happiness, all of it took its toll. And so, when he finally said, "This is my life," it was not just a rejection of rumors. It was a cry for freedom. The world had waited for years to hear him speak honestly about his struggles. And when he did, his voice carried weight. He spoke about the loneliness that comes with being admired by millions but known by none. He spoke about how love becomes impossible when every relationship is turned into gossip before it can even breathe. He admitted that sometimes the pressure of being a symbol, an idol, a perfect man was suffocating. "This is my life," he said, "not a movie, not a rumor, not a fantasy. I have the right to live it as I choose." These words hit like thunder. For fans, it was a shock. Many had built dreams around him, pairing him with co-stars, imagining fairy tale romances. But Can's truth shattered those illusions. He reminded everyone that he is not a character in a drama, not a tabloid story, but a man who longs for freedom, love, and normalcy. When his words spread, social media exploded. Some fans expressed heartbreak, others defended him fiercely, and some simply felt relief that he had finally spoken. The Turkish media dissected his confession line by line. Italian tabloids published emotional analyses. Across the world, hashtags trended, clips went viral, and everyone had something to say. Yet, amid all the noise, one thing became clear: people were not just hearing Can Yaman, they were finally listening to him. And in his honesty, they found a side of him they had never seen before. For years, Can had been labeled, judged, and even attacked. He had been painted as a rebel, as arrogant, as untouchable. But his confession broke those walls. Suddenly, fans could see the man beneath the armor. They could see the vulnerability in his words, the fatigue in his tone, and the courage it took to stand up and say, "Enough." In that moment, Can Yaman was not just a star. He was human. And that humanity made him more loved than ever. The ripple effects of his statement are still being felt. Producers, journalists, and fans alike are rethinking how they approach him. He has drawn a line in the sand, refusing to let his life be dictated by speculation. He has claimed ownership of his story. And whether people accept it or not, they cannot take that away from him. For Can, these words marked a turning point. They were not just an explanation, but a declaration of independence. By saying "this is my life," he freed himself from the endless burden of other people's expectations. He reminded everyone that even a man adored by millions deserves the right to love, to make mistakes, to breathe without judgment. As the world watches what he will do next, one thing is undeniable. His silence has ended. His truth has been spoken. And his life, his real life, belongs to him at last. After his confession, something unexpected happened. Instead of losing admiration, Can Yaman gained more respect. People realized that it takes real courage for someone in his position to speak so openly, to admit vulnerability when the world expects perfection. His honesty became his strength. Interviews that followed showed a calmer, more grounded Can. He didn't need to prove himself anymore. He had already proven everything by daring to be human. Fans who once demanded explanations began to protect him, saying he deserved peace, privacy, and happiness. For the first time in years, the conversation shifted from gossip about who he was dating to admiration for who he really was. Behind closed doors, Can continued to work, to prepare for new roles, to build his career abroad. But this time, he carried himself differently. The weight of silence was gone. The man who once had to hide behind carefully chosen words now spoke with freedom. "This is my life" was no longer just a statement, it became a shield. Every time new rumors surfaced, his fans reminded the world of those words. It became a mantra, a reminder that even stars deserve boundaries. And perhaps, deep down, this was what Can wanted all along. Not just fame, not just recognition, but the right to define his own story. The right to remind millions that he is not a dream created by television, but a person with hopes, fears, and truths of his own. The impact of his revelation will last for years, because once a star dares to break the illusion, nothing can ever be the same again. And for Can Yaman, nothing will be the same, because from now on, his life truly belongs to him. In the end, his words reached far beyond the world of entertainment. They resonated with ordinary people who had also felt the weight of others' expectations, who had also struggled to protect their private lives. Can Yaman's confession became more than a celebrity statement, it became a symbol of resistance against judgment. For some fans, it was a lesson that loving an idol means respecting his choices, not controlling them. For others, it was a moment of awakening, realizing that behind every glamorous photo there is a fragile human reality. And for Can, it was liberation. The man who once carried the burden of silence now walks with a new kind of strength. His life is no longer a story written by gossip columns. It is his, fully and completely. And no matter what the future brings, those 5 words will echo, "This is my life."